The Russian army right now is literally collapsing from the within, as these soldiers decided for some reason to attack their own positions. Then there was also a very nasty ambush in Belgorod, on the territory of Russia, and then the Putin's top general, the head of the chief of staff of Russian forces, Valery Gerasimov, is suspected to be dead. But more about all of this in just a couple of minutes. What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. And let's get straight to the point and top. So, today we have... Okay, so today we have the representative of the Russian authorities, Mikhail Kozyrev, and he basically suggested that a lot of Russian families will not be able to meet the Orthodox Christmas, which by the way is on January 7th, which is not like Catholic Christmas on December 25th. So he suggested that since a lot of Russian families will not be able to celebrate this holiday with their men of the family, with their fathers, brothers or sons, he's like, what if we send them cartoon figures of their men so they can celebrate as an actual family? As soon as this story touched the Russian propaganda and Russian media, they immediately started making fun of him, just like I'm doing right now, and he had to defend himself, saying that no guys, this is all a fake news, this is all a Photoshop, I never wrote this, pretty much emphasizing that yes, he did it. So it looks like that statistically the chances of Russian soldiers to return home are not that high, to say the least, and right now even the Russian authorities indirectly started to confirm this. I wonder if this guy will now be prosecuted for discrediting the Russian army. And speaking about the statistics, I just realized something. It is that 42.6% of you guys are not subscribed to my channel. But that's okay, because we can change it together. And yes, this does include you, Greg, Bobby, Peter, Walter and Jesse. So just please simply hover over your mouse or your finger over subscribe button, perform this very simple action, and that's it, the problem solved. Subscribe to my channel, guys. You can also follow me on Instagram to see how I live outside of YouTube. The link is down below. And so yes, now you already know what time it is. It is time to get serious. And first of all, we make a stop in the south of Ukraine, where Putin top general is suspected, eliminated. Then we're gonna go talk about ambush in Belgorod, and we'll finalize everything in the east, where Russians decided to attack their own positions. And first of all, speaking about the south, right here is the video from Zaporozhye front lines, where two Russian self-propelled artillery systems called Nona-S were destroyed by Ukrainians. Next we go to Crimea, where Ukrainians still hold the bridgehead over this city, and there are still almost daily combat activities. And so Russians decided to bring a tank and two armored personnel carriers to attack the positions of Ukrainians, and Ukrainians were able to relatively easily repel this assault, eliminating the military vehicles and infantry of the enemy. And we even have the entire video of this incident as explained to us by Ukrainian soldier with the nickname Madyar. The video is 16 minutes long, showing pretty much exactly what happened with his explanation. The video is just way too long for me to show on YouTube, that is why if you want to see the full and uncensored version, you will be able to find on my Patreon. The link is down below. 1 week of free access for every single one of you guys. As we go to the southwest of this settlement to another one called Chelburda, Ukrainian HIMARS attack was reportedly able to destroy a Russian air defense system. And then, as we go to Crimean Peninsula, if you remember last week, a very big Russian landing ship called Novocherkassk has been destroyed in Feodosia. And well, today we have this 3D simulation which shows us approximately what happened. And it looks like that Ukrainians used 2 fighter jets to initiate the attack. They used 10 Storm Shadow missiles and 7 of them were intercepted, and then there were even attacks by Ukrainian sea drones. So as you can see, this was not just that easy operation, but luckily it ended in a success. And yep, you guessed it, the full version is also on my Patreon. But unfortunately it looks like that the threat to the Black Sea returns because reportedly, according to the Ukrainian Navy, right now they were able to notice a total of 8 Russian vessels which are potential missile carriers, which are capable of launching at least 16 metallic cylinders at once. And just in general, speaking about the work of the Ukrainian air defense at this point. Last night, in the last 24 hours, they were able to intercept 21 out of 29 Russian Shahed drones. But the problems for the Crimean Peninsula do not end here, because reportedly Ukrainians were also able to destroy another ammunition depot of Russians located in Pervomayskaya. And the reason I decided to show exactly this picture with the cotton, it is because Russian propaganda often replaces the word loud noises and fireballs, just like I do. At least I'm censored by YouTube, but they do it on their own. And so they replace these prohibited words with the word chlopok, which is very sounding familiar to another Russian word called chlopak, which is literal translation, the cotton. But most importantly, if you remember the events of the last 48 hours, Ukrainians were able to destroy at least 2 Russian military bases located on this peninsula. One is Saki region in Yevpatoria and another one in Sevastopol. And so recently Russian propaganda also started to confirm that yes, indeed, this happened. And according to their information presented to them by the General Staff of Russian forces, at least 23 Russian soldiers were eliminated, 9 of them were elite soldiers from Spetsnaz, and at least 5 very high-ranking military officials. And there are even some reports that potentially, just potentially, the head of the Russian General Staff, Valery Gerasimov, might have been also eliminated in these attacks. Now guys, I know at this very moment, at least at the moment of recording this video, this is an extremely speculative topic and news. The chances that this is actually real is approximately, I would say, 5%, maybe even less than this. But just in case, I still decided to report on this, so that you know this potentially happened and that it might be yet prematurely to assume this. But in case this is true, I would say that Valery Gerasimov is the person number 2 in the entire Russian military, following only after the Ministry of Defense, Sergei Shoigu. And potentially the only reason why this news is 5% true, it is because the Russian media declined to comment on this situation. So you already know it. Whenever they decline to say something, they are investigating themselves whether it happened or not, or maybe they're trying to hide something. So just please let me know in the comments, what do you guys think? And so yeah, now guys, let's switch our attention to the east. But before we can talk about very important events that happened there, just a couple of words about the ambush in Belgorod. And so specifically what I'm referring to is this video from the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine, where first of all, Ukrainian soldiers are planting mines on one single road which leads through the forest, which Russians were using to bring back and forth reinforcements to their military camp. Then they were ambushing the Russians themselves, and whenever they started to run away, they pretty much showed their hidden location, let's call it like this. And Ukrainians took this opportunity and destroyed entirely the location, this so-called military base of Russians in Belgorod. And yes, this video as well will be a part of my today's post on my Patreon. But something else happened in Belgorod as well. Local residents were able to report some loud noises last night, and Russians obviously said that these were 10 Ukrainian cylinders called Alha, and Russian air defense was able to intercept all 10 of them. But then they showed us this video, and they said that the Ukrainian metallic cylinder landed in the civilian residential neighborhood. So on one hand they said, we intercepted every single metallic cylinder. On another hand, they say, look, Ukrainian metallic cylinder is destroying residential houses. Which one would you believe? Also, please let me know in the comments. And well, something similar happened in Novorossiysk, located all the way down to the south, as you can see right here. And basically local residents reported that there was some air raid sirens, along with pretty loud noises. And so this is a perfect opportunity for me to finally transition our attention to the east, and first is the video from Donetsk, a region where another Russian self-propelled artillery system called Msta-S has been split into atoms by Ukrainian attack. But wait, it is not over yet, because even more missile systems, such as for example this one, Buk 2, was also destroyed in Donetsk. And then several minutes later, another video of Buk M3 also surfaced on the internet, and it also being destroyed by Ukrainians. As we move to Avdiivka front line, Russians decided to try an advance next to Stepovo, located right here, but in this failed assault they lost 2 tanks. And in Avdiivka itself, Russians were fighting against the Ukrainians, pretty much also not advancing at all. And Ukrainians, using a drone once again, were able to target and destroy a very expensive Russian tank. But at the very last moment when the drone was approaching it, it saw that there was this word inscripted on the side of the tank which said Polish. I have no idea what Russians wanted to show with this, but the tank was destroyed. I use first video 20 Avdiivka, also obviously semi-censor, and then when I'm talking about the inscripted Polish on the side of the tank, use picture 21 Poland. But potentially the most confusing event of this week, at least for Russians, is this video, where we can clearly see that a Russian tank is literally assaulting its own position of its own comrades. And then it just keeps advancing, and then the Russian infantry dispatches and starts running towards positions with their own comrades, and this is basically Russians attacking themselves. I obviously do not know exactly what is happening. Maybe they mistook them for Ukrainians or anything like this, but at the same time they should know, because they do have radio, they have some sort of communication. So it also then basically allows me to at least assume that maybe there was some kind of a disagreement within this specific detachment or regiment, or maybe even battalion, who knows at this point, and Russians decided to attack themselves. So could it be that the Russian army is failing, is disengaging from within? And then yet another video of the similar context arrived to the internet, where basically a Russian infantry is being targeted, looks like by a Russian artillery. And as always, just like in the previous example, there was no comments from the Russian side. So yes, could it be the very beginning of the Russian military falling apart from the inside, the disagreements, the tensions rise, and maybe some soldiers decided to take action? Because obviously whenever your comrades are sent into these kamikaze attacks, and most of them never return, at some point the temperance, at some point the patience must be over. Could it be this moment? And it looks like, investors, that we might have our answer relatively soon. But in the meantime, if you do want to show the support to my channel, if you do appreciate this style of daily news updates, once again, can you please simply subscribe to my channel? Only takes one single little click. Thank you so much, patrons, for your support, and see you on Tuesday.